Welcome, everybody. My name is Claire Hopkins, and I'm your moderator for this evening's webinar on all the questions and everything you want to know about RMIT Online's new fully online Bachelor of Business. Before we get started, I'd just like to do an acknowledgement of country and acknowledge the people of the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. I respectfully acknowledge their ancestors and elders, past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians and their ancestors of the lands and waters across Australia where we conduct our business. So it's great to meet you, and thank you. It's Wednesday, we're halfway through the week, beautiful warm night. We're so glad you could join us. I know it takes a real commitment after a long day of work to now jump on a webinar, but I hope you find the evening really engaging. We're going to have three parts to our agenda. Firstly, we'll give you an overview of what it's like, the new program, the fully online Bachelor of Business. And then we're going to talk with Jason Elias from Medibank, who's one of our industry partners on this program, and how industry has been involved in shaping it and will work with us in delivering it. And lastly, we're going to have time to answer all of your questions with our team of experts from RMIT Online. We did put a call out for questions as you signed up, so we'll be using these to guide the conversation as we go. However, if you still have other questions, you can post them in the Zoom chat, and if we have time, we'll also answer those. So let me get on with section number one. I'd like to introduce you to Jonathan and Lee, who have been really heavily involved in this program, and they're going to tell us all about it. So please help me welcome Jonathan Boymall, who is our Associate Professor and Program Director for the Bachelor of Business at RMIT, and Lee Tan, who is our Director of Product Development at RMIT Online. Thanks, Lee and Jonathan, for welcoming us. How are you both tonight?
Good to see you, Claire.
Great to be here, Claire.
You guys have been deep in developing this program for quite a time now, and it actually is really innovative. So we're really keen to hear a bit more about it. Jonathan, why don't you kick off and tell us what is it that makes this fully online Bachelor of Business from RMIT stand out from other programs that are in the market?
Sure. Thanks, Claire. Well, as a future-focused university, RMIT recognises that its priority is to ensure that our graduates are equipped with the expertise, the knowledge, the skills, the networks that are transferable to emerging worlds of work. So no matter where you're at in your learning journey or your career journey, our Bachelor of Business will equip you with in-demand relevant industry skills to tackle the future of work. There are probably three aspects of the program that I'm particularly proud of. The first is flexibility and choice in learning. So with the Bachelor of Business, students have tremendous choice over their learning journey. So with the flexibility to customize your degree, you're able to study a choice of majors, minors, or a unique combination of courses that aligns to your personal or professional interests or ambitions. It's obviously designed 100% online, so you can study anywhere, anytime, and work around your work and life commitments. And you can change your program in terms of the composition of the courses and the majors that you're doing. You can accelerate your program, you can pause your program to suit your needs. So you've got full flexibility to decide what's right for you. The second aspect that I'd call out is that it's really career focused. So our Bachelor of Business and the majors and the component courses within the majors are focused on sustainable high growth disciplines to future-proof your career. And we have an integrated skills framework that runs through all the courses that we offer. So there's an emphasis on analysis, on problem solving, on ideation, on solution generation and testing. We're also partnering with some of the industry's most iconic brands. You know, the focus really here is not on assessment of learning, but it's assessment for learning. So you're going to be developing industry relevant skills and graduate with a highly recognized degree. And the final aspect that I call out is our focus on multidisciplinary and hybrid skills. And we all know that we're seeing the growth of hybrid professions. These are jobs that contain or require multiple skill sets, traditional occupations that are being disrupted, transformed by data analytics, by technology, partnerships, platforms, a focus on human-centered design, creativity, sustainability, responsible business. So in this degree, you will gain those hybrid skills that have the potential to unlock diverse career opportunities.
I love that. And we hear it time and time again for our students who are studying fully online and typically are working adults, just how important that flexibility element of how this program is being constructed is. Jonathan, who's the ideal student for this online Bachelor of Business? Who's it going to appeal to?
Well, the online Bachelor of Business is ideal for early to mid-level professionals who are either working full-time or part-time. They're looking to gain relevant business skills and knowledge to pursue a successful career in business. But it's also ideal for mid-level professionals, those who are working full-time or part-time, but they're looking to gain some proficiency in contemporary business fundamentals, and also they're looking to fill in knowledge gaps within their career. And that's driven the choice of the majors that will be offered. So we're looking at marketing, people and organizations, and management and change. And also there are a range of minors, including business analytics and business and technology, which again really focus on those emerging hybrid skill sets.
Yeah, I was looking at the courses before, and I'd almost want to go back and do it again because the courses sounded so exciting. And Lee, I'm going to come to you because I actually looked back at the subjects I did in my Bachelor of Commerce. Let's just say it was a long time ago. And when I did it, there was zero choice available on electives and some very unsexy course titles such as admin processes. And I really love what this program allows for with so much choice and really contemporary subjects. Tell us more about how a student could customise the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Claire. And just building as well on what Jonathan was mentioning around this, that we've really created what we believe is a really innovative degree in market, in the Bachelor of Business market, that's highly customizable in recognition that, students that are wanting to do this and in the target market that Jonathan was talking about, and hopefully many of you on this webinar, not only come from a really interesting range of different backgrounds and interests in what you want to go into, but also you come from probably a wide range of work experiences and are looking for different things in your degree. So what we've done is there's really only 5 courses in the 24-course Bachelor of Business that you must do, and they're 4 business enabling courses at the front end, and they'll provide a really strong grounding in essential business fundamentals. And then 1 capstone course at the end, which is a graduate portfolio, which will bring together everything that you've learned throughout your entire degree into a digital portfolio that you can show to prospective employers or even your own employer for promotion and development opportunities. Everything in the middle, the remaining, 19 courses, you can choose from the areas that Jonathan was referring to before. So what we've done is pick really high growth, high jobs demand disciplines and areas such as marketing, management, people and organizations, and HR, and blended those with future of work areas such as business and technology, cybersecurity, blockchain, business and data analytics, to really ensure that you can pick from areas that have high jobs demand, and also will open up a whole range of other hybrid careers for you and job opportunities in your workplace. You can choose to major in each of these areas, or in fact choose a little bit of each and choose to be a business generalist as well. It's really up to you.
I remember some research we did recently with students, and they talked about their desire to do almost a Bachelor of Miscellaneous, where they could pick and choose everything that was in that to make something really unique that reflected them and their skills and their interests. I'm going to come back to both of you now with a question that's not on the script. If you were choosing the majors and minors now, knowing what you know at your stage of career, where would you put your energy? Which ones are exciting you about the program? Jonathan?
That's a great question, Claire. I mean, there are a couple that really speak to me personally in terms of my role within higher education and the disruption that we're seeing within this sector. I think management and change would be of tremendous value to anyone looking at the disruption of traditional industry sectors, and I would definitely pick up business analytics as well.
Yeah.
The number of traditional occupations that have been disrupted by the rise of big data is quite incredible. And we've spoken to, for example, people who lead the HR function in large organizations, and they say that they want to see the graduates that come into their graduate programs with a little bit of data analytics behind them. And that's something that, you know, wouldn't have been discussed 10 years ago. So yeah, definitely management and change and business analytics speak to me.
What about you, Lee?
Well, I guess my trade is a product manager, and so I would definitely pick marketing.
Yep.
As a product manager, I guess you've got to, you know, have working knowledge of a whole bunch of different areas, and certainly marketing in terms of how our different products, you know, from the customer perspective, how they perceive them, and how you can increase purchase of those products is interesting and important. So I'd probably pick that and then combine that as well with business analytics.
Yeah, the business analytics one really stood out to me too. And I'm probably with you, Jonathan. I love the management and change area, and you know, the opportunity to do something really contemporary there now is pretty exciting. Lee, tell us a little bit more about how long it takes to complete the degree and how our students can use flexibility to fit around their very busy lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we can think about flexibility from a couple of different lenses. One, obviously, our degree is 100% online. So the flexibility that Jonathan referred to before in terms of you can study wherever and whenever you want. And then the other thing that I'd probably point out is, and this might be slightly different to what some might understand about university calendars, we've actually designed quite a unique university calendar that will have 4 teaching terms per year. Instead of quite the more traditional 2 semesters. And the reason we've done that is knowing our 100% online students often have really busy schedules outside of study, whether it work or home life, enabling students to take 4 courses a year, 1 at a time, but still get through their degree in not too long a period of time. And so really it's catered specifically for the wholly online student. The program itself, as I was saying before, has 24 courses, as all bachelor programs do. And so it's really up to you as a student. You can, you know, take 2 at a time and finish in 3 years, or you could take, you know, 1 course at a time and take 6 years. It's really up to you. You can take as long or as accelerate through the degree as quickly as you like. The one thing to note is that there is in university land, there is a requirement to finish your studies within a maximum period of 10 years, but hopefully that's manageable for everybody.
That flexibility is just so important. I did my MBA while I was working full-time, and when you're taking on that study load on top of full-time work and family and friends and well-being commitments, you do need that opportunity to be able to just pause and then accelerate if you want to, and it really does make all the difference in making it feel really manageable. I'm going to come back to you for one more reflection before we move on to the second part of our webinar. I'm really keen to hear your reflections on what was the biggest thing you got out of doing your bachelor's degree?
Sure.
Lee, do you want to start?
So I did a Bachelor of Commerce and a Bachelor of Law double degree. I think for me, a couple of things on the business side, understanding those business foundations and fundamentals, both from a micro and macro perspective. I went on to do, you know, business more broadly and strategy over the course of my career. So that was a really good grounding and really set me up for that, and probably have drawn on that quite a few times in my career, particularly in areas like structured thinking and exposure to data and how to use data to drive decision making. From the law side of my career, didn't become a lawyer, so didn't use that too much, but certainly structured thinking and how to break down a problem and apply that regardless of the sector.
Yeah, great. Thank you. What about you, Jonathan? Anything sort of stand out about what really shaped you from your bachelor's degree?
Yeah, it's a great question, Claire. So I did a Bachelor of Economics many moons ago, and something that really impacted me at the time and continues to do so was my choice of economic history subjects. and just looking at things through a historic lens, understanding systems thinking, complexity, and the importance of context, as well as mental models. I think that's had an impact on me right through, doing my honours, PhD, and then working in the higher education sector. It's been really, really valuable.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to say thank you to both of you now, and we're going to invite Jason Elias, who's the Head of Partnerships and Sales at Medibank, to join us. And for this second part, we want to sort of really hone in on the importance of industry and how they've been involved in developing this program. Jason, great to have you here tonight. How are you going?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and it's just great to be part of this panel discussion. It's really exciting. It actually makes me think back to the opportunity that a degree like this can really bring, especially when industry is involved so directly. It makes it so much more tangible and real. It
does. We get that feedback quite a lot, both from our industry partners and loving to have an impact on the practical skills that are coming through the workforce, but also from students loving that connection to both academia and industry partners and how powerful that is when you bring it all together. Now, Medibank has been a leader in the health sector for a very long time, and we're so thrilled to have you as an industry partner on this program. Tell us a bit more about why Medibank decided to partner on this one, the Bachelor of Business.
Sure. Well, Claire, Medibank's been a partner of RMIT's for well over 10 years now as a health partner. On the one hand, our responsibility to the university and the community is to provide health-related services and support. And about 5 years ago, we realised and really embraced a unique collaborative opportunity that a university partnership with RMIT can bring, because there's so much intersection between Medibank and RMIT. The ways we can collaborate on industry support, student experience support, engagement programs, which all really support and underpin the student experience as well as the staff experience. And over the last couple of years, we've extended that program out a lot more, whereby we've brought in a lot of interns, both domestic and international students, into Medibank to get practical experience as part of their degree. And I'm really pleased, I'm proud that I've had several interns in my team that have gone on to full-time employment within Medibank. And in one case, a student started off as a volunteer as part of his degree, and then had the opportunity for a paid internship. And then once that internship was completed, he actually got an opportunity for full-time employment. And that transition and engagement was fantastic for us, because it really enabled us to see that student experience and support that student experience. When this opportunity came up to partner with this degree program in particular, we were really excited about it, because it enabled us to really be able to be there on the ground and part all the way through, from conception through to implementation.
What do you think has been your favourite part so far of the involvement with the program?
I think actually Jeremy Crawford is our head of acquisition and talent, and he's really been involved with a lot of the design and implementation. And as the commitment and the responsibilities have come through, we've really understood how we can actually engage stakeholders across the breadth of Medibank to be involved in different areas of the business. And I think that's probably one of the key things. One of the other key areas that's really been really important that we've embraced as well is this, I guess, social impact and the realisation that a degree program that has social values at the core and the essence of what it's trying to do and achieve was really important to us, because we're very much a values-led organisation and we're held accountable to those values. And I think when you see a degree embedding that within the curriculum design right from the beginning, I think that's really exciting as well.
Me too. What could, for our students who are listening in, what can they expect then from Medibank throughout the program? How will they see that come to life, that industry insight?
Yeah, we've been collaborating on the learning and design aspects of this degree, so from the outset. But what we'll be really aiming to do is providing both direct engagement and opportunity for students to meet with and be part of experiences that will connect them to Medibank senior leaders and stakeholders. across the breadth of the business. And we'll be doing that through film opportunities, through presentations, as well as providing real world challenges that we're facing as an organisation, and getting the students to actually be part of that problem solving. So they're real world problems that we're experiencing and that we're looking for that student input to provide support in. Similarly, there's really that that ongoing case studies, participation in video content and other initiatives that really will continue to evolve as this comes out, and will evolve with the student experience in mind as well.
It sounds so exciting. I can't wait. And they were some of the favourite parts of my degrees, was when you actually got to hear that real world side of concepts and the theories, and be able to tackle it in what is a relatively safe environment, where you're not necessarily going to lose someone any money in doing it, but it really gives you that environment to test it out and look at the options. I think, Jason, it's so topical, the future of work and what automation and technology is doing to changing the way we work and the types of jobs that are being created that didn't even exist 5 years ago. Really interested to hear a little bit from you about, what do you think are the next wave of jobs to hit the business world?
Great, it's a great question, and I'm actually going to take a bit more of a direct response as to what we're experiencing now. What you're going to start hearing more and more in the media about what's described as the Great Resignation. There's a lot of people that have pretty much put their careers on hold over the last couple of years with the pandemic, and now there's a lot of change that's actually happening. And what we're seeing in the area from Medibank's perspective, it's the marketing side, it's the digital side, and it's the technology side, which are the areas that are most in demand for us, and probably where we're experiencing a lot more of that movement. And I think these skills are really going to be important, I think, and career opportunities really high in demand. I think the marketing function, there is a lot of opportunities from a marketing perspective as well, where talent is really being sought after. But also, to Jonathan mentioned before, just around the analytics side as well. And that is something that's really going to be really important too, as far as having those skills and the breadth of skills will be really important. As far as a specific job is concerned, I think going back to some of the principles, what's going to be really important is an individual's ability to work in an agile and highly flexible environment. And the skills that will be embedded within this degree, I think, will really serve the students well as they come into graduation, because they're the things that really employers are seeking now. A person has that flexibility, adaptability, and can work with a broad range of stakeholders in an agile environment.
Totally agree. And hasn't the last 2 years taught us about being agile and adaptive to our environments? It's been amazing. When you think about the three major areas that this program is going to speak to in terms of marketing, change management, or people management, are there any particular key skill sets under those ones that are really jumping out at you that you're seeing at present?
Yeah, from a marketing perspective, absolutely customer orientation and segmentation. Really understanding your audience and making sure that you're speaking to that audience. There's a lot of personalization that's coming in through as well. So we've got 3.7 million members, but that's really irrelevant to you as an individual. As an individual, you don't really care about that other 3 million. You care about yourself and your family, and making sure that we're being as approachable and as personable and provide the service that you specifically are looking for. Otherwise, people will move. And so that customer focus and customer orientation is really important from a marketing perspective. Management and change, as I mentioned before, it's that agile approach and being able to be flexible and to take a team with you. Within Medibank, we do an enormous amount of evaluations, both externally with our customers, but internally from a staff perspective. And every year we have a My Voice survey to really get the voice of our own staff to understand how they're responding to management and leadership. And as a senior manager within Medibank, we are held directly accountable to make sure that you are providing service and support to your team and to the portfolio or to the business unit that you're in, that they can relate to, they can respond, and they can believe in the change that you're actually delivering toward. And so it's really about bringing people together and bringing people with you on that journey, as opposed to a top-down approach. And I think that's where the management and change will really come into play.
Much more contemporary than the command and control way of leadership and management, 20, 30 years ago. Jason, thank you. That was brilliant. We're going to flip now to the third part of the webinar, and I'm very keen to invite in Kylie Brown, our Director of Learning and Teaching, and Anitra Nottingham, who's our Head of Course Design at RMIT Online. Kylie and Anitra, welcome. How are you both?
Very good, thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So we've often said that online learning is a little bit of a black box, that you don't really get to see into it until you're in it. And it can be hard for people who've never studied online to imagine what it's like to be in an online classroom. So kind of keen to bring that to life a little bit with both of you, from what students should expect in terms of the course and the online classroom and the teaching and the support that's available. So Kylie, why don't we kick off with you? Interested to talk through the difference in online learning versus on-campus experience. What should a student expect that's going to be different, and what tips have you got that help them to be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thinking about my undergrad, because my undergrad was face-to-face, and so when I started, the timetable was kind of dictated. You knew what courses you needed to enroll in, because particularly when you start out, you've got to do your core courses, and the timetable's dictated to when you've got a lecture or you've got a tutorial and those sorts of things. And so then you have to work around what that timetable looks like. So the main, I think, one of the key differences actually, which is what appeals to a lot of students when they decide to come into the online environment, is that it's intentionally designed for that flexibility as a starting point. We know you guys have lives outside of study. We know that you have competing priorities that may not fit a model of having you turn up to class between 9 and 11 a.m. on a Monday. So I think the biggest difference to start with is really that the courses are intentionally designed to be run online, so that you can complete them in your own time, around your own schedule, within your competing priorities. That's kind of the number one thing. Because of this, we like those courses to really stand alone. So you can work through the content, interact with your tutors every day at a time that suits you. But we do recognise that it's really important to bring the learning community together. So we do also run online webinars, which are typically out of hours. We try to vary the days, so that if a Tuesday is not for you, then and we'll record that webinar, you can pick it up, and then the following week it can be on a Wednesday. But so it's not mandatory to participate in these things, but they're great places to go and ask questions. So you're not learning new content in these webinars. They're really about connecting with your teacher, having a chat, trying to make sure you've understood what the week is about and how it connects to your assessment and those sorts of things. So that's really the flexibility, I think, is really the number one for online spaces.
And Kylie, given your role with us, you know everything about teaching and how to get the best out of students. What advice would you give to the audience who are going into most likely their first experience with higher education and online learning as well? What advice would you give them on how to be successful at that?
Oh my goodness. So the first thing I would say, and I include myself in this, so I've been teaching a really long time, so about 17 years, and I've taught face-to-face and online. And the amount of students, like I would say 95% of the students in the room, whether online or face-to-face, are always really nervous that they're either not going to be smart enough to be there or not going to be successful, and all of those things. And people respond really differently to this. So my first piece of advice is really everyone is in the same boat and really nervous about the same things, even if they're not being vocal about it. So just remember that the community is there to support you. Secondly, the key to success is really showing up. So jumping into your content, having a go, not understanding, failing at it a little bit, you know, and then like trying again is where the success lies. I think probably everyone in the room can probably talk to an education experience that wasn't a highlight, but then have recovered from that. So it's not a measure of your ability to learn or capacity. This is all about putting one foot in front of the other and just knowing some days are better than others, but you will be successful if you just show up for yourself.
That is such great advice. I remember when my line manager, I was about 7 years into my career, and my line manager suggested that I do an MBA, and my response to him was, I'm not smart enough to do an MBA, only really smart people do that. And it was the highlight of my education experience, and I still use stuff from it today, some many years later. But yeah, sometimes it's just about taking that leap and being then really deliberate about how you go about it and using all of the amazing support that's available, which takes me to my next question. Every student wants to know, what's the support? Online is going to be isolating. Can you talk a little bit about what our students could expect?
Yeah, that's so one of our teams in RMIT online, they're called our student success team, and they are there. I liken this to the on-campus version is the office where you go to if you've got a question about anything, and these amazing people in that office know the answer to everything. They know about enrollment questions. I noticed there was a question before about what if you've picked 2 courses and you've decided, you know, a week in that the study load is too much. Like, these are the people you go to and go, what do I do? And they help you change your enrollment and those sorts of things. So we have a lovely student success team, and their role is to support the students. For those coming into the program as a new student, they will personally reach out to you 5 times during the first course to see how you're going. Like, firstly, welcome you to the course, but also make sure you're mindful of dates and some of the lingo, because I think some of the academic language can be a bit confusing at times. So they'll reach out during different points to make sure you're okay, see if there's anything you need. And the great thing that they do is they also triage you into services into the university. So a common one where you'll find, particularly during this year, it's been such a stressful year for everyone, with lots of competing priorities, that, you know, some of the students have reached out because they're really struggling. They're struggling with the workload, and so we've got counselling services in RMIT. So we'll make sure that they're connected and getting the support they need. So that's one of the teams, and they're also there for you to call at any time as well, or email. So like I said before, if you're studying at 11 p.m. at night, the team won't be on the phone, but if you drop them an email, it will be the first thing they see in the morning, and they'll resolve what's the challenge at the time. So that's the really number one support team from the student perspective.
Lovely. What about in terms of in the classroom? Tell us about tutors and course coordinators.
Yeah. So I'll start with the course coordinators. So the course coordinators are the leader of the course. They're responsible for essentially for the quality delivery of that course, and they will design the assessment strategy and will be like how this content's going to work, and is the course meeting their learning objectives, and is it relevant for industry, and all of those sorts of things. They're in charge of that bit. We also have what's called our online facilitators. So these are the people that you'll be put into a group of max 25 students, and so you'll have an online facilitator working with you and the 25 students as a learning group. Now, you mentioned before about the differences between face-to-face and online, and one of those key things we know about online, and as we're talking about that flexibility, is that our online facilitators are online with the students every 24 hours. So they have to be visible and answering questions. That's one of their requirements. And it's really, really important to us, because we would hate for you to sit there for 5 days waiting for a question to be answered when you've only got so much time to be working in that learning space. So they're with you every day to answer questions around the content, and in that sense, but they'll also host those webinars that I mentioned before. So you've got time to really jump in live if you can, or if you want to, or equally, if you have a clash and you can't make that webinar, you could reach out to them and go, these are the questions I want answered, and that webinar will be recorded for you so you can catch up on that later on.
And maybe, I guess, one of the other important elements of that, Kylie, is that continuous cycle of feedback. Our students are getting that from their online facilitator. Do you want to touch on that briefly?
Yeah, I think, yeah, and that also leans into the course design a little bit as well, because we're intentionally designing these things in bite-sized pieces so you can practice and try, and that sense of, I say fail at things, but I mean that in a really positive way. It's better to learn at this bit than the big assessment at the end, you know what I mean? So those facilitators are giving you feedback on those sorts of things throughout the week as well. And you also have the collective of the peer group as well. Never estimate your friends in that 25 group, because they're going through and experiencing things in the same way as you are. So when we're looking at learning material, it might make sense to us in a particular way as a reader, but when you come to do it and your peers have been doing it and they're like, oh, I wasn't clear on this bit, but this is how I resolved it, that can also really help you as well. So there's that sort of informal and formal feedback as well, but then that formal feedback from the assessment process as well. So you know how to improve for your next assessment too.
Amazing, I love it. Anitra, I want everyone to hold on to your seats now, because Anitra is probably going to start using some terminology like asynchronous and synchronous.
Sorry, yeah, I do that.
Anitra is the queen of the metaphor, so I know you'll enjoy however she chooses to bring this to life. Tell us what it's like in an online classroom. I'm knocking on the door. What's my door? Who am I sitting next to? How do I raise my hand? Bring it to life for our students.
Well, I guess the first thing to know about it is that you're going to be at your classroom is what we call an LMS, a learning management system. It's set up to deliver content to students. That's its very purpose. Sometimes I've likened those to digital filing cabinets. You know, there's just sort of, if learning is not designed well, it's like you have to kind of open a drawer and say, is what I need in here? Is this thing what I need in here? And they're not sort of easy, unless things are really structured, they're not really easy to follow. So we design all of our content to be really accessible, really easy to follow. As Kylie mentioned, it's grouped up into little chunks. Joyce likes to call it Fitbit style learning. So you can work through a sequence of activities and learn something and then go away, do the dishes, come back and do the next thing. And I also like to say that it's like a big interactive textbook / non-human teacher. And that's not to say that you don't have a teacher in there, but the idea is it's self-paced. You would read through, you'll maybe read an article, you'll maybe go out to a website, you might do a little interactive, you might do a little quiz to test yourself. You might then go in and sort of talk about a little bit of content with your classmates as you go through, and it's designed for you to work through at your own pace. So you're not having to go to a lecture every week. You're not having to sort of have that passive kind of absorption. We call it the learning experience, and we really mean that. So that's what it's like being in the course. And you can, I saw there was a question before, you can, work ahead if you wanted to. That's the great thing about being self-paced like that. Yeah.
Tell me about some of the platform tools that students are likely to get to experience.
Yes, we have what we call learning tool integrations that we plug into that platform of the LMS so that we can use other ways of learning. So things that we use are like Miro, which is a whiteboard, which a lot of people have used. It's become very popular since COVID hit. So for instance, you might go out to a Miro board. It's got a free educational license. You just seamlessly go out there, do some work in there, maybe with fellow students, synchronously or asynchronously. They may have come in and done something, and then you come in and you contribute and you go in and out. So we have plugins like that. We also have a tool that's part of our Canvas learning management system now called Portfolio, which we are building into the content as you go along. You can start to gather assessments into that Portfolio tool and save them. My husband likes to say that your blog is your resume. He's very big on the idea that things like LinkedIn, Medium, things like that build a presence for yourself that employers will see after you leave school. And that portfolio tool, I think, is really great to sort of be a collection point, a curation point for you to be able to sort of get content that you can maybe share with others and talk about. So those sorts of tools are plugged in there. And honestly, we're exploring new things all the time. We've got this little journal tool that we can do in browser typing. When we ask you to make a reflection, you could do it right there. Things like that just make that, our goal with all of our technology is to think about what the user needs and to make it seamless rather than just use something because it's cool and fun, although I do like cool and fun technology too. not
That
going to
does
lie.
sound like cool and fun with the portfolio. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Anitra, what would your tip be to our students who are listening about how to be successful in this online program?
I'd say reach out. Like, it is social. It doesn't feel social, but if you think about your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed, you are very social online. And if you bring that sort of social presence and way of interacting with people into the space, you can make friends. And as Kylie said, friends are really important. The people going through the course are the people who really understand what you're going through at a time when your family and friends probably won't, to be honest. And it makes a much less lonely experience. Even just being able to complain to each other is amazing. Like, there's been research done on just what that does for students when they're able to talk to each other about what their difficulties are and how much that lightens their load. It's really quite startling. So that's my number one tip for that. And also have a really good filing system and back up your work.
Very practical. I love it. Thanks, Anitra and Kylie. Stay with us. I'm going to invite Lee, Jonathan, and Jason to come back on camera. Lee, you've been checking the chat box. I believe you're going to throw some questions to the panel.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. And I know there's been tons of questions, so definitely keep them coming. There have been a couple that have popped up a little bit, so we'll spend some time answering those. One question was around background that you need to apply for this degree and entry requirements. So there are essentially a number of different ways that you can gain entry into the degree, and I'd encourage, there's quite a bit of detail in there, so I'd encourage everyone to jump onto the RMIT or RMIT Online Bachelor of Business program page, which will set those out in a lot more detail. At a high level, you can come in if you've finished your high school in the last 2 years. And your results obviously from that. Coming in with a vet qualification or coming in with previous higher ed study. So in terms of higher ed study, there are again a number of different ways that will make you eligible for the program. Some of these include completing a higher ed diploma or anything more advanced than that, completing at least 4 courses or subjects at an associate degree level or higher. And then or 2 courses at an undergrad degree level as well. You can also come in with work experience plus having to take what is called a STAT or what does that stand for? A special tertiary admissions test to assess your eligibility for the program. So yeah, a number of different avenues to enter into the program. Couple of other questions there that are coming through. There was one around set classes. So I think that question might either be around the courses that you have to take or set times that you need to study. So I'll answer both in case I'm not sure quite what that question was specifically referring to. But in terms of courses, there are 5 specific courses that you have to do, which are the 4 business enabling or foundation courses at the front end. And the 1 capstone at the end, and then everything else in between is up to you. In terms of timings, we've really designed 100% online. You can do this asynchronously, and that means that you can study when is most convenient for you, and you've got snippets of time. I think Joyce mentioned this in the chat, but there is a weekly webinar that we'd really encourage you to either attend or watch the recording. That's where your online facilitator will take you through more specifics of what you're meant to be learning that week and can answer any questions live. But that's the only synchronous component, but you can still watch that at a time that suits you. A couple of questions popping through in terms of the study load. So in terms of the part-time study, you can finish that. I think there's a question whether you can finish that in 3 years. If you take 2 courses at a time for each of the four teaching terms per year, yes, you can. And then a couple of questions that I'll get Anitra actually to come on and answer. So one is around the expected study hours per week per course, and then also a question about whether there'll be group work. So Anitra, do you want to?
The dreaded group work, Anitra.
Oh, let me go the group work first.
Yeah.
Jonathan has a great way of talking about group work. He calls it teamwork, which It is, right? Like business runs on teams. And so it is important that you do work with others. What I like to say about the group work is we just do it a little bit differently. We try to find ways to, we make sure that the assessment's fair for a start, but we do that anyway at RMIT, but especially online because you're not in front of your teachers working. So we make sure that the assessment is fair. And usually it takes a little bit longer to do group work. We want to design it so that if you log in on a Sunday and your group's been working, you're not going to miss out on the work, right? So like instructions will be given, we leave it for a whole week before we expect you to start working together so that people don't get left behind. That's the difference between that synchronous, asynchronous thing. But I encourage you to think of group work as a good thing. It's a way to make friends. Watching my own son do his undergraduate degree, like how much more he was engaged with group work because he was with other people and how much more he learned. I just think that's it's a good thing, and it's just done a little differently in-line. And of course, things like Miro and all those sorts of tools make collaborating easy. It's not about being together in time and space. We've got tools for that these days. Expected study hours. I'm terrible with remembering numbers. That is hours per week. The volume, we call it the volume of learning. We time all of the content that we put together, and I'm just looking back through. Help me with the numbers here, Kylie.
12 hours per week.
Thank you. Really number dyslexic. So what we do is we call it the volume of learning, and what we do when we make the content is we calculate how long we think you're going to take to read it. We have a sort of metric that we use to create that. We calculate how long the videos are. So we put a time on each piece of learning so that you know how long it's going to take you. So that's why we group it up together. You know how long it's going to take you when you pick it up. It's probably going to take me 2 hours. I can fit it in this time here. So that study load, hopefully we get those timings as close as we can to reality. We love it when you tell us that we got it wrong so that we can fix it. But that way you can make sure that you can portion out the study load how you want, but it's always that same volume of learning per week. And we include the webinar in that learning. So whether you attend it live or whether you watch a recording, I hope that answers the question.
Awesome. And there was one more question that has been popping up around new majors and minors, whether new ones will be introduced at a later date. Great question. And this is something I obsess over daily. Yes, the short answer is yes. We're constantly looking at where the demand is in the market, talking to students, talking to our industry partners like Jason at Medibank and a number of other industry partners involved to really understand where is both the demand from all of you as prospective students and what is industry really looking for. And we'll definitely add new majors and minors. If I could be super cheeky and ask as a product manager, if anybody feels comfortable adding in the chat box what they'd like to see, that would be super helpful as a data point for us if you feel comfortable doing that. And I think there might be a question around, can I speak to someone one-on-one? Yes, definitely. I think Kylie talked about this before in terms of there's a whole support system that sits around you as a student. Kylie, do you want to jump in and answer that one?
Yeah, absolutely. We have and there's a number of different reasons why you'd want to speak to someone one-on-one, right? So firstly, there is your facilitator. So you might need 15 minutes for a chat with them, which is totally reasonable. But there's a number of other reasons. There's a student support team as well. So if you're struggling with study and you need some support, or you have some questions that are more around the administration or those kinds of things, what services we have, there's that. But there's another service, a learning support service that we offer, which is really good for assessment prep and those sorts of things, where you can book in some time with them to just get some feedback on an essay draft on structure or referencing or those kinds of things. And so we have that as well. So it kind of depends on the need, but the answer is yes. And which direction you go will depend on what the question is.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think we've got a bit more time, so we'll take another few questions. Jonathan, one for you around RPL or how does RPL work in terms of people wanting to use that for entry into the program or for courseware?
Sure. So what people would be required to do is take a look at the individual courses, take a look at the course learning outcomes, and provide a body of evidence around the demonstration of those course learning outcomes. So that may be particular projects that that you've worked on, or recommendations from employers. So we look at each course on a case-by-case basis, and we check whether students can tick off on the course learning outcomes associated with each individual course.
Yeah, fantastic. So there are a bunch of other questions coming through. I just wanted to highlight that we will endeavour to get back to everybody. I know there's a number of questions we may have missed. There's lots flying through, and our enrolment advisors will get back to everybody individually to ensure that all your questions are answered specifically. I think I might be handing back to Claire.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to call it a wrap now. So I want to thank everyone. Jason, thank you so much from Medibank. Really looking forward to seeing the delivery and the insights that your team is going to bring through this program. Jonathan and Lee, you've done an amazing job on explaining and developing this program. It's super exciting to see how innovative it is. And thank you to Joyce, Kylie and Anitra for all of your insights about how to be a great online learner and really get the most out of the program. Thank you so much to our audience for joining us. It's, end of the day, I'm sure you're all getting pretty hungry. Enjoy your evening, and we really look forward to hopefully welcoming you next year into the Bachelor of Business. Good night.